It's very exciting to have this trio here today to present. I just wanted to say I only got involved in all this after 16 years as a journalist now. I've just been a volunteer and a resident, and I live in the Millstone River Road Historic District, which was put on the National Register in 1991, way before I knew anything about education and preservation and planning and all the things. And it's been a pleasure covering and reporting on different things going on in Somerset County. Welcome everyone to the event. Enjoy. Take it away, Walter.
All right, thanks so much, Ricky. So I'm just going to stop my share here and hand it over to the team to start their presentation. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to just share away and we'll get right on with it.
As Kaitlyn's doing that, so thank you, everyone. Thanks for the kind words, and thank you to all our partners and board and commission members that are here from Somerset County. We really enjoy the support. I guess we all are commission members dinner for coming out to support us today. So I'll just start that, the planning division, we are kind of an umbrella organization, as Ricky mentioned during that. So we oversee farmland preservation, open space, historic preservation, economic development. We work on a wide range of planning topics, and you can see from our mission statement that history and preserving our rich history is part of our mission statement. So we really worked over the last several years during my tenure as director to really integrate a lot of historic preservation work into our everyday planning processes that enhancing the ones that we already had in place. So on to the next slide. So a lot of our work is guided by the counties and oh, sorry, Kaitlyn, go on.
No worries. So just similar to that, under planning is the Cultural and Heritage Commission. We were established in 1983 via county resolution and are composed of a 9-member board of commissioners that are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, formerly known as freeholders in the state of New Jersey. In Somerset County, we also have an advisory committee composed of individuals nominated by each of the county's municipalities and appointed again by the Board of County Commissioners. So it's kind of a 2-pronged board that helps guide us in Somerset County. All right, Walter, back to you.
Thank you. So I just so everyone knows, we're going to flip back and forth between Tom, Kaitlyn, and I during different portions of the presentation. We just want to keep it lively for you, and because we have a lot of information to share. So in 2014, the county adopted as part of its master plan the county investment framework, and this is really a consensus document that we worked with all our planning partners, all 21 of our communities, as well as state agencies and the business partnership and the business community, with the goal of creating a framework that would clearly identify where growth should occur in the county and where preservation should occur. So we have priority growth investment areas. These are areas that are concentrations of job and employment opportunities, as well as commercial activity. And places that want to see either revitalization or additional development. All these places that are shown on this map are consensus-based. So it's only shown on the map if our towns agreed to these various designations. So it really was a ground up and bottom down, putting together a large range of different planning programs, projects, initiatives, and plans to make sure that there's that clear guidance document. So we also have our priority preservation investment areas. So those are the green and dark green colors on the map. So more than half the county is shown in our priority preservation area. So dark green is lands already permanently preserved, either through historic preservation projects, farmland preservation, open space at the state, county, local, and federal level. And then the lighter green areas are areas that are targeted for preservation or stewardship. Obviously we can't buy every piece of land in Somerset County and preserve it, but the idea is that stewardship and best practices strategies are applied to those areas that maintain their rural character and the ambiance that makes Somerset County such a great place to live, work, and play. We have our local priority areas. Those are areas on the map that are centers in the state development redevelopment plan, or areas that investments encourage, but not that would change to change the scale or sense of place of those areas. So those range in places from like Burnsville Town Center to Millstone and Kingston, Rocky Hill, and those types of places. So, given priority for grants and other investments that enhance the quality of life and vitality of those areas. I should mention the priority growth investment areas are the purple areas, and those range in places like the Somerset County Regional Center and existing town centers like North Plainfield and Manville and the Bound Brooks. And then our alternative growth areas and limited growth areas are basically just the residential areas of the county where Some residential growth is permitted or allowed, or where it's limited on limited growth areas that don't have public water or sewer. So it's a much lower density in those areas. So next slide. So that really guided a lot of our work over the years, and we're working over the past few years to integrate that map and the concepts in that investment framework into our various planning documents of the county master plan. So one of the efforts that we did is our Walk, Bike, Hike Somerset County study. And as you can see from the slide, what's the purpose of this study? This was funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. And you can see that, we wanted to make sure we're supporting walk and bike and hike activities, but more importantly, we want to make sure it was integrated in our county's preservation plan that is currently underway. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But also, we're looking to connect people and places and destinations. We have a lot of great parks, a lot of great historic resources, and a lot of great towns and communities in the county. We want to make sure that we provided additional ways to connect them. So how it tied into the preservation plan on the next slide is that we looked at a couple of different 5 framework plans. And one of them we wanted to do, as I mentioned, we want to incorporate historic preservation and embracing our past in our planning documents. Is we came up with a strategy to link the 5 generals houses in Somerset County through a series of trails and greenway connections. The Heritage Trail does an awesome 5 generals tour, the bus tour of those sites. They do an awesome job. And we were looking at this as a way of connecting those through those trails and bike lanes and greenways, and basically being able to market that concept, working with the Somerset County Business Partnership and the Tourism Board to promote all these different sites as come to Somerset County for the weekend and tour these sites, spend money in our local restaurants, visit our other great places and other parks and open space in there, but really highlight that history because it's so unique to Somerset County. So that was how we started to try to brand that, as well as are looking at our physical transportation investments to support these. So all these things start getting knitted together. So it's a comprehensive plan for the county and a comprehensive strategy to promote, the amenities that Somerset County has, but also look at it as a workforce attraction, workforce retention type of strategy where, employers will follow the employees. And if we have people, our residents want to live in Somerset County because we have all these great amenities, then employers will want to stay or expand in Somerset County. So we're tying economic development with historic preservation, with tourism, agritourism, where sometimes those are really not looked at as the same thing. But we've always said that the investments that the county's made in our open space preservation program, our farmland preservation program, the historic preservation grant program are investments. And how do we leverage that for other economic activity to ensure that we remain a great place to live, work, and play? So on to the next slide. We also integrated into our 2019 hazard mitigation plan. So hazard mitigation plan is required by FEMA to be, for counties and towns to be eligible for pre-disaster mitigation funding. That's, flood proofing, making the buildings and facilities more resilient. So we wanted to make sure we were coordinating land use planning and mitigation strategies and policies to also advance the county's investment framework, but also coordinate with that with the county's preservation plan. Because if we're identifying areas that could be bought out for flooding or preserved, that would help preserve our rural landscape or our river corridors. It also has flood mitigation benefits as well. But also we want to make sure that some of our historic resources that may be impacted by climate change or flooding or other natural disasters start looking at plans they can put in place to make sure they can recover or protect themselves or harden their facilities. And by having these concepts embedded in the hazard mitigation plan, it allows them to access that very competitive funding pot for potential when projects come of it. When funding becomes available through the normal federal allocation process, or heaven forbid, when there's a disaster, they could also access those funds. So all 21 of our towns have annexes in the plan. So this was a great shared service opportunity that we provided for our towns to make sure they're eligible for these funds. And then, through our county's efforts, be able to protect some of these historic resources. And then, which really leads to our preservation plan. So this is an update of our 2008 county's farmland preservation plan, our 2000 open space and recreation plan, and for the first time, creating a historic preservation plan for the county. We want to use this to advance, implementation of the county's investment framework and ensure the framework is in those policies and strategies are embedded in these functional plans of the county master plan. And then also use this to use tourism, resiliency, and economic development strategies to link the plans together to really, as I said, promote our amenities, promote economic activity, and great quality of life. So Tom will get into this a little bit in more detail, but we think this is the first in the state, if not the country, where all three plans are being done at the same time. So they really are integrated and really reinforce each other and really set the stage for a coordinated and comprehensive, implementation agenda as we move forward. So I don't want to steal any more of Tom's thunder, so I will turn it over to him at this point. So he is the project manager.
I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the county has contracted with Heritage Strategies to coordinate the report. And in our group here is Elizabeth Watson, project coordinator from Heritage Strategies. Also the New Jersey Conservation Foundation to develop the open space plan, and Land Stewardship Solutions to develop the farmland preservation plan, as well as Barton Ross and partners to develop the historic preservation plan. And Barton is also in our group here. So, they can really take over from here if they want to, but I guess I'll keep going. Also, GIS mapping is being handled by Washington College. So we had an extensive outreach program, and where we had a number of very well attended public meetings. I think our county commissioners were very impressed with the turnout, especially from the historic preservation community in the county. We got over 200 written responses from our questionnaires, as well as we did a separate questionnaire on historic preservation and received over 84 responses from that. So we think we got considerable public input on this, which we incorporated into the plan. Now the plan, just going over some of the chapter headings, there is a section on county history, which puts everything into a kind of a historic context. Also, there's a section on benefits of historic preservation. I thought this was important. So for those members of the public that maybe aren't quite familiar with why are we doing historic preservation, it really kind of outlines some of the benefits: economic, cultural, aesthetic reasons for doing this. We also have, there's a section on historic preservation planning and the regulatory framework, looking at all the federal and state regulations, guidelines and programs which impact historic preservation, a number of which obviously impact Somerset County. And we also took a look at local preservation plans and ordinances. And I know Barton is a specialist in this field, so that was very, very important to have his expertise in writing this plan in this section. Also, we have a section on historic resources in the county. We've mapped and listed all of the sites on the National Register of Historic Places, as well as this eligible sites that are eligible for the National Register. We've also listed and mapped all the Historic American Building Survey and Historic American Engineering Record sites. Also, we have a map and listing of all of our historic bridges, and we're going to mention bridges a little bit upcoming here. So all these things are in the plan, as well as a kind of a separate map showing sites that are owned by Somerset County. We really wanted to emphasize that one of the main goals of this plan was to take a look at our own sites and make some recommendations there. Also looked at historic preservation issues and funding opportunities, and goals and strategies for historic preservation. And also, as part of the plan, there's a chapter on landscape context, which is very interesting, a tourism and education element. Now, this is not a tourism plan or an education plan, but it's really just a discussion of those issues and how they relate to farmland, open space, and historic preservation. And we did really reach out to our Somerset County Business Partnership, which is the official tourism organization for Somerset County. So we've tried to coordinate with these outside groups in developing the plan. And we expect to have the 3 major elements out for public review by late spring.
Move you along, Tom, into other components.
Yeah. Next, I wanted to have a brief discussion on our cultural resource survey. This has really been the backbone of the historic preservation effort in the county. And it dates back to 1989. Don Esposito, who's also listening in, Don and I really wrote the first, or wrote the successful grant request from the State Historic Preservation Office. And it was really the number one priority of the commission when it was formed in '93 was to do a historic site survey. So that was completed. It was done by the Research and Archaeological Management. Marvin Brown was the project coordinator, and it was adopted as part of the county master plan by the Somerset County Planning Board. So basically it is official policy of historic preservation for the county. The survey looked at over 4,800 sites in the county and determined that 565 sites and 23 historic districts were eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. The survey proposed multiple property listings for metal truss bridges, stone arch bridges, and Dutch barns. All the sites were mapped on USGS quadratic maps, everything done by hand. This is old school at this point. The survey did contain a 32-page historic context, which outlined a number of key historic themes in the county, including agriculture, industry, transportation, religion, Revolutionary War activity, and ethnic settlement. And there's a 40-page architectural history and 150 pages of local histories and architectural histories. Also included were 724 black and white photos and 488 color slides. And we have now placed the survey on the county website, which you can take a look at all the maps, all the text, and all the 400 of the color slides are online. So this has really, really been the most important historic preservation activity to really get the county going in kind of in the field of historic preservation. And and I just want to mention this next slide that Kaitlyn put on. We do show, these are all slides from the Cultural Resource Survey. We do have a smokehouse. The lower right-hand corner is the Smalley Wormser House, which is a site listed on the National Register of Historic Places in Warren Township. And the other picture is a slide from the 6 Mile Run Historic District of a Dutch Barn, which unfortunately is no longer with us. So some of the sites in the survey are no longer standing. So again, a picture of one of our precious Dutch barns that we have in the county. So
Tom, for time, I'm going to keep moving us along.
Okay. We also did the
Tom could talk for days about
Also did a metal truss bridge survey, which really came out of one of the recommendations from the Cultural Resource Survey. It looked at over 39 metal truss bridges. 23 bridges were eligible for the National Register, including looking at railroad bridges. And there's an example of a Reading Railroad, abandoned railroad over the Raritan River, really one of our most important bridges. So, and that also was adopted as part of the county master plan. So bridge preservation also
So yeah.
is a policy of the county.
And in addition to that, so under cultural and heritage, the county administers 3 separate grant programs. 2 are program-based grants focusing on arts and history programming or general operating support. Those funds originate from the New Jersey Historical Commission and the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. Our 3rd grant, which we'll go into more detail, is our bricks and mortar grant, which is the historic preservation grant. And this funding is allocated from the Somerset County Open Space, Recreation, Farmland, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. And we'll go into, show you some of the amazing things that have occurred because of this grant.
Just want to mention that eligible properties for the grant include any site that's either listed or eligible for the New Jersey Register of Historic Places. So far, we've granted out $20,167,000 in grants. We've issued involving 55 sites and 69 total buildings and structures. And also, one of the eligible activities is acquisition of a historic site. We've only been really involved in 1 acquisition in the last 20 years. So, of course, it involves rehabilitation, restoration, or preservation of historic sites. We do fund plans and reports related to the implementation of historic projects. We do require project sign, and also funding our interpretive signs, plaques that go along with the historic site. And everything, of course, must be in conformance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. The applications are submitted to the county. Staff does a quick review for completeness. We do have a grant committee composed of architects, building industry experts, and member of the Culture and Heritage Commission, which is Don Esposito, who's been on the committee since basically day 1.
Tom, do we want to move and show some of the amazing,
Sure.
amazing befores and afters, just to give everyone an idea of some of the transformations that have happened because of this grant program?
This is the English barn at the Kennedy Martin Stell farmstead, obviously before restoration. And this is the after picture. This is really one of our success stories involving the Historic Preservation Grant Program. This was purchased by Bernards Township as part of an open space acquisition. And again, it was a situation, what do we do with this historic site? There was a nonprofit group formed. It was eventually leased to the nonprofit group, Friends of the Kennedy Martin Stell Farmstead, and adaptively reused as an art center. Here's the interior of the English barn, used for plays, concerts, etc. Very successful. Also, here's the Kennedy Martin Stell farmhouse, still undergoing some restoration. And inside the house has been reused as an art gallery. There's also, they've rented out some of the space upstairs for some artisans. So it's been an extremely successful adaptive reuse of a historic site. Also, the Abraham Stotts house. This, again, was purchased with the help of Somerset County by the Borough of South Boundbrook, basically as a historic site. And I think this is a great example of a more traditional historic site in a historic house museum. It's a small borough, but they've done an excellent job of interpreting the site and providing for continuing maintenance and interpretation of the site. Here we do have a couple of events. Donna Bela, this was involved in our weekend journey through the past, one of our events at the house, and also Joe Beckton, who is an annual presenter at the annual Tory Jack Day at the Abraham Stoss House, which is usually held in February. Unfortunately, not this year, but Joe does a fantastic job interpreting especially African-American history. And here's just a before and after of the corn crib that was on the site. But just an excellent example of historic preservation. And the last example is, this is the Dr. John Vermeer House in Greenbrook Township, obviously a before picture. Again, purchased by Greenbrook Township, and here's the after. The house is pretty much almost fully restored at this point. They're still doing some work on the second floor, but it's going to be opened up for meetings and historic tours as a historic house museum. And this was built about around 1799. So another great example. And we did, I must say, this was the one site we did aid the township in helping to purchase the site. So, and they have a great group out there that also from Greenbrook Township, the Arts and Historic Preservation Committee, that operates the site and interprets the site.
So since we're tight on time, I'm going to just keep plowing us through here. So the other two grants that I mentioned earlier are our County History Partnership Program grant. These are funds, as I mentioned before, are granted by the New Jersey the New Jersey Historical Commission, are used to support local history organizations and other nonprofit organizations and municipalities that provide history programming, services, and development. Real quick here, we have two images of a sign program that we partially funded, and then a still from a video that one of our other organizations did. So this is just, these grant funds are for general operating support or for special projects. So we see a lot of, again, these signages helping like interpret these historic sites that we're saving. So this is a great program in addition to the bricks and mortar grant. And then in the same run, we have our local arts program grant. This is arts-based, but what is interesting to note about this grant is that we encourage our history organizations that even though they cannot apply for general operating support because their missions are history-based, they can still apply for project grants. So if they're doing a project and it does have a very arts-based theme to it, they can still apply to this grant to get additional funds to keep doing different projects. So it's a great kind of mix of both arts and history, and being able to provide those funds to our locals, which is has been a great asset.
And just want to mention that Culture and Heritage Commission Office, we do provide assistance to other county divisions. We work very closely with our engineering division on investigating road and bridge projects which may impact historic resources. Every year we get a list of especially historic bridge projects that might impact historic resources. We try to do some research using the state's GIS resources and our own cultural resource survey, and trying to determine, if they impact that. Also, we do work with some of the other groups in the county. So that's been very helpful, for our county resources. Also, we do represent a number of other groups with the county, the Millstone Valley Scenic Byway Corridor Management Plan, which helps out the Millstone Valley Scenic Byway, which is one of the two National Historic Scenic Byways in New Jersey. I'm on the board of the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route, and also we try to interact with the Crossroads of the American Revolution in New Jersey organization. And we've been involved in a kind of a new little ad hoc group, the 10 Crucial Days +3 group, which is looking to extend the 10 Crucial Days from Trenton, Princeton, up to Morristown.
And we're also, a big part of what the county does is making sure we promote our historic resources. And we do this in a variety of ways, in addition to the grant programs. This includes our Historic Preservation and History Awards program, which is a biennial awards program that really just helps increase awareness, promote excellence, and recognize worthy individuals, organizations, and projects. We also produce various booklets, such as this Historic Sites, our National Register book. This is a site that when we're promoting things that at our local 4-H fair, you know, everyone is always really excited to get their hands on. It's a big like 8x11 book, and they're like, this is free, and they're like, yes it is, and they just take it and they run, and it's quite comical because it's just a great book of amazing information that we make available to the public. And then we do things like this where we, you know, constantly are trying to just get the word out about what resources we have, whether it's the grants, whether it's our booklets, whether it's just various information. So we're constantly just being in contact with the public wherever we can. And Tom, I'm just going, because of time, I am going to bump into one of our bigger heritage tourism programs, which is Weekend Journey Through the Past, or Journey Through the Past, as we've started to call it. This is an annual collaborative heritage tourism event, providing free interpretive tours, performances, trading cards, family activities, arts programming, and more. We traditionally partner with 30 historic sites throughout the county to bring the event to life every year. The commission coordinates the event and provides the majority of the marketing for the event. In 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw some changes to the event, including kind of like a choose your own adventure path, because we knew that individuals were at various different comfort levels, you know, this past October with the pandemic still going on. So what we did is we did have our traditional sites that were open to the public. Many of them provided a lot more outdoor activities so that those who felt comfortable going to the site but may not have felt comfortable going into one of the historic sites, they could still engage at the site itself. We also produced a history hunt, which was kind of allowed visitors to engage in Somerset County history on their own time without that one-on-one engagement with the individuals from the sites. We also worked with organizations like the Millstone Valley Preservation Coalition to promote a driving tour so that you didn't even have to get out of your car if you didn't want to. So again, looking at the different comfort levels of everyone, this was a great driving tour experience that really covered the, you know, the Millstone Valley National Scenic Byway, which was really great. And we got such great positive feedback from that. And then for those who didn't even want to leave their homes, we actually did a GIS story map. For time's sake, I will just put the link to that story map in the comments when we're done, so you can check it out. It's really cool. It's very visual, had a lot of video aspects from our various different historic sites, but also just told snippets of Somerset County history. So again, it was a very choose your own adventure, whether you didn't want to leave your house, didn't want to leave your car, didn't want to interact because of your comfort level. We provided those various different methods so that we could still engage in this event, but still making sure everyone was safe. And Tom, you want to touch base on our historic? We're almost done.
This is our historic marker program. We set this up a number of years ago, and basically what we're trying to do is mark our prominent historic sites in the county. Number one goal is to mark our sites which we have given grants to. For example, we have the Van Horn House, which happens to be owned by Somerset County, but has received considerable county funds. And also we did mark this African burial ground, which is one of the first properties in the state that was owned by an African-American, including a slave. So we thought that was of great importance and should be recognized. So we've got about 10 markers up right now, and hopefully we're going to be putting up another group this year. So when the snow melts, then we can get one up. We're going to be putting one up on the General John Frelinghuysen house, which is Raritan Library, and Don and I have worked on that one. So that's an ongoing program. Hopefully it'll keep going in the future. And I know the state is looking into starting a marker program, but we're going to keep going on ours for the time being anyways.
And just to wrap us up, one of the biggest initiatives that we're really looking forward to in the coming years is the Semiquincentennial, which I'm sure with this group, you're all familiar that this is the 250th anniversary of the establishment of the United States of America. We are, already at the county talking about what our plan of action will be for the 250th and actually beyond. We don't want to just stop there. The Somerset County Culture and Heritage Commission is currently actually starting its long range plan, and this will be a big component of that. Actually, former or past executive director Courtney Mercer is actually going to be working with us on this plan. So it's very excited, and a nice connection with Preservation NJ. So we're very excited about that. This is just a major anniversary and initiative that we're very excited, and we're about 5 years out, and it's going to come quick. So we're very, very excited. So that's just something to look forward to. So thank you.
That's great. Truly, this is almost like overwhelming. How many, probably other people feel the same, of how much your department is involved in, and the creativity. And also, what really struck me is just how you're connecting historic preservation to these larger goals for the county, and how it's increasing the quality of life. And you mentioned things like workforce attraction, workforce retention. It's just it makes so much sense when you think about it, right? Living somewhere that is interesting and has places and things that you want to learn about and go to. So just really enjoyed that. Thank you all. There's a couple questions that are in the chat, and I realized that we're going a little bit long today. And so, I know I want to get through these questions. If somebody does have to hop off, they have something exactly at 1 o'clock. I just want to assure you, we record this. And so, if there was something that you missed in the Q&A and you had to leave, please, know you will hear that answer. But I'm just going to jump into some of the questions that were in the chat. There was 4 questions that were put in here. So Randy Ruth said, has the county ever sold a property for private development?
Well, if we've preserved it, we can't because of Green Acres encumbrance. If we preserve farmland, it's we're buying easements on it. So I can't think of any time when we sold land per se. Tom, can you think of anything?
The only what comes to mind was the president's house at the community college, not exactly directly county related, but that was sold with preservation easements. And I believe the county has repurchased it back now, if I'm not mistaken. So, but for a while it was in private hands. Anything that would be sold would have to, especially, well, if it was listed, would have to go through State Historic Preservation Office review and have protections added to it.
Great. Randy had a second question. How long did it take for the county to update the historic survey?
That was a 2-year effort.
2 years. Okay. Another question on the
way back when, and I will say it's one of our goals in the preservation plan is to update the survey. Do a look at the old survey, update it, put things on GIS, everything it would be mapped on GIS and be available to the public. So that's going to be a major project.
Great. Billy Newman asked, how does the county encourage and actually update the 198s or the municipal historic site surveys? Is that your question, Billy?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit more. I think in the 80s, mostly every county was empowered to help municipalities do historic site surveys. And, I'm curious if Somerset actually does help, or have you had a program of helping municipalities update their historic site surveys? I imagine you all did. Your municipalities within the county had individual surveys done?
Well, our survey covered every municipality, except for a couple of Bedminster Township and a couple of other towns, which were done by the Upper Raritan Watershed Association 2 years earlier. So we just kind of incorporated that information into our survey. So we really basically did all the surveys for the municipalities. Now, because of the age, we were again thinking of redoing it and covering every municipality in the county.
Yeah, in the preservation plan, we've talked about, discussed strategies to provide some additional assistance to our towns. The Board of Commissioners is really encouraged us, and asked, it looks for us to help our towns in every way we can. So we always look for opportunities where our work can help, local efforts. So there's a whole range of planning efforts, like the hazard mitigation plan is an example of a shared type of service. Some of the work we've done on our supporting priority investment, where we help the towns on land use and transportation planning recommendations for targeted growth areas, is another example of how that. And then I have a great staff, so we help them on a day in, day out basis with these types of things, and we share with them grant opportunities. We'll partner with them on grant applications. We do incorporate local projects into our various planning documents. So when a town wants to apply for a grant, they could say it's part of a county study. So it's not, it's clear that the town's not just chasing after grant funding, it's a part of a regional picture, a thought out planning process. So our towns have been pretty successful with that, and that with some of the other planning work we've done. And when we adopt the historic preservation element, the farmland and the open space plans as the county's preservation plan, we hope that gives them a leg up. So they're first in line for funding opportunities for competitive grants.
Can I just ask a follow-up question on that? Do the counties, New Jersey counties, from a planning perspective, do the New Jersey counties actually have a mandate to review their master plan, as is municipalities on a 5-year rolling basis, or at least look at them, pull them out and dust them off? Do counties actually have that same mandate in New Jersey?
No, the county enabling legislation has barely been updated since the late 60s. So yeah, we are not required to update the plans on a regular basis. We do. We try to follow that, like at least the 10 years, similar to the municipal master plans. We do try to review the various documents as we go. We did start a few years ago with the preservation plan. I think we were very ambitious. We have a great consultant team, but I think we were overly ambitious on how quickly we could pull it all together. But I think as it comes out, I think everyone's going to be very pleased that, and it was like I'm saying, I guess I could say it's a lot more work to make sure all these they're coordinated than we thought there would be. So I think, it's going to be an excellent product, but counties are not required to update on a regular basis.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm asking from the perspective of Bergen County.
That's a great question. Is there any verbal questions? I think I covered all of them in the chat before I kind of say thank you and wrap us up. Any questions? Mark Barber.
Hi, everyone. I served on the Montgomery Landmarks Commission with Ricky a while ago, and a question came up about replacing something called the Revolutionary War Incident sign on Route 533, where it meets 206 in Montgomery. That's, I think, the Millstone River area. And it occurred to me that a lot of people driving by, unless you're walking or biking or going by slowly, there's so much text on these signs, it's really tough to make out. I have 3 kids in their 20s, and I know there's a lot of content on websites and things, but to me, to try to engage like high school, middle school kids, I thought, we should really have something that's a little more modernized. Signs that either have a website or a Q code even. I went to the local American history teachers at Montgomery, and there was a lot of interest in possibly having kids there, provide content, and getting something on apps. And I'm just I did have some interest. We discussed it for a few months. Frankly, it sort of died out. Is there anyone looking to like modernize and try to engage kids, really, high school kids and younger, about, we have Princeton up the road. There's dozens of sites they drive by all the time without any awareness of what happened there, who lived there, whatever. I'm just wondering, is there any effort towards modernizing how this information is presented, available, and possibly be included in school curriculums?
Kaitlyn, you want to talk about Weekend Journey?
Well, we have events like Weekend Journey, but also I was going to say, the preservation plan isn't out yet, but like as Tom mentioned, there is going to be an educational component, and that is something that we're looking at. That is what my team often does. We really focus on storytelling and how we can get these stories out in a variety of different methods. Again, using whether it's infographics or QR codes or simpler ways to engage, because we know that technology is changing. We know that the standard ways and the ways of old are not always going to be as captivating to our younger generations. So that is something that we are are continuously exploring, like I said, with our weekend journey event, you know, while the pandemic, you know, is a horrible thing, making things very difficult for all of us, we took that and, you know, looked at ways to go virtual, looked at ways to engage in different ways. And that is something our staff continuously is looking to do, because we realize it is an important thing that we have to do. It is not an easy task. Every school has various different, you know, requirements, needs. We've seen great success in Warren Township with their schools engaging with their local historic sites and working with the students to become docents at the historic sites, which they actually will do on weekend journey weekends. So like that's a great example, and that's actually stuff that we are trying to you know, get more information on, enhance, learn, and get it out there so that we can all kind of find different ways to engage like that.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the senior members of the commission stated that, you know, you can make these plans to put up signs, but the current landowners may have strong opposition to people finding out about their property, the historic value. Not a, you know, that's a big hurdle. A lot of people will not participate or, you know, fight you trying to get data like that centralized and available to other people in the township. But thank you.
Thank you. So we have one more question in the chat, and then just to respect everybody's time, I am going to do the wrap up. So the last question, and maybe it's kind of a bigger topic, but maybe we can just mention, you know, a briefly answer it. It's from Edward Purcell. Can you go over the State Historic Preservation Office process and the county's involvement with this process? So I think it's kind of a big question, but maybe you can just talk about your relationship with SHPO and you know, how you interact. Mm-hmm.
Well, the SHPO office, they have legal requirements for reviewing all sites that are listed on the state register that are impacted by county government. So we frequently interact with the SHPO office on road and bridge projects, and when necessary, I have to make presentations in front of the New Jersey Historic Sites Council. And I know we got Bob Craig here, who was a longtime SHPO employee who worked with the Historic Sites Council quite a bit. So also, all the sites, we do have SHPO review all of our plans that are submitted for the Historic Preservation Grant Program to make sure that they're consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards. Almost always we do insist that everyone working on any of our grants have our qualified historic preservation consultants, architectural historians, historic architects. So usually it's a pretty easy process when you have the proper people working on these plans and specifications. Also, SHPO does provide funding for the Certified Local Government Program. So some of our local governments have taken advantage of that, specifically Franklin Township and North Plainfield so far. We hope to get, it's one of the other recommendations in the preservation plan is to get more of our local governments qualified for Certified Local Government Program, which is really a federal program, right? But the SHPO provides funding for that. So there's SHPO does a whole range of things that they do. So so we worked very closely with them, and I know I worked for many years with Bob Craig, and it was great working with him in the National Register section. So we had many long talks about National Register sites. So
I would just say if anyone has questions or want to follow up with us, we're more than happy to talk with them. I just have one closing point I want to make before you wrap up, Emily, is that the work that we do is because we have a great staff, but we also have great support from our boards and commissions. And really, I have to commend the Board of Commissioners that gives us the ability to do these projects. And these types of efforts, they really embraced and are very excited about things like the 250th anniversary. They really push us to do this. So it's really through their leadership and their support for resources and providing. We have a very big planning staff for a county compared to a lot of other places. So we are very lucky. That's why all of us are here. All of us are in long-term employees. I started as an intern back in 1997. So it's a great place to work because there's good people to work with and work for. And that's why we're able to do the work that we're able to do. So that's why we were able to throw all these different things at you, because we have tremendous support from our elected leaders.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. And, you know, I just really want to thank you, all three of you again, you know, Kaitlyn and Tom for joining us. This was a wealth of information. Maybe if it's possible to put your contact information in the chat. I know you had some contact information on your last slide, your email, so people could reach you with questions. That would be, I think, great. I want to thank Ricky for connecting us. You know, he's been talking about the great work that you've been doing, but this is kind of our first time getting to interact like this. So thank you, Ricky. I want to share a couple slides about just how you can stay connected to what we're doing here at Preservation New Jersey. We do these Q&As about once or twice a month. It's actually been twice a month lately, which is great. And our next one is going to be March 25th at 1 p.m. It's going to be with our board president at PNJ, Barton Ross. And he's going to be doing a kind of a technical presentation on understanding historic preservation regulations using appropriate building materials. And we are seeking AIA credit for that. We'll have that confirmed shortly. So definitely, please feel free to join us for that. It will be on our website shortly, and I'll show you the link in a moment where you can find it. It'll be on the website this coming Monday, so you can sign up. But Preservation New Jersey, we were founded in 1978. I just started this past March last year, so about a year now. And we've really, we've been doing a lot. We've been doing a lot of virtual programming to kind of keep folks engaged. We're excited to start to do outdoor programming this summer. We do our 10 most endangered historic places coming up in May that you might have heard of before, be familiar with. We have a newsletter that comes out every quarter. And we have our also preservation awards that we do, which we'll be doing this October. At the 1867 Sanctuary. So a lot of different ways to get involved with us through membership and also attending these events. And again, if you want to contact us, you can go to preservationnj.org. You can follow us on social media. And that website, preservationnj.org/events, is where you can find all of the recordings for previous events, and also where you'll be able to find the recording for this event in a couple of days, and also sign up for Barton's event coming up this coming Monday. So a lot of ways to engage. I hope that, you stay in touch. This was a really great group and a great conversation. And with that, we'll say goodbye. So thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Oh, and you see the chat in the chat, the contact information. Thanks so much, Kaitlyn.
Wow.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.